Jason's ready for Freddy. Here's your relook at the NECA Toys Freddy vs. Jason, Jason Voorhees. Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees return to terrorize the teenage population, except this time, they're out to get each other too. As Jason gets ready for a throwdown with the Springwood slasher, we're going to go ahead and first figure out how tall the Freddy vs. Jason, Jason Voorhees stands by taking the trusty tape measure of mine and taking it right to the very top of his head. It has been several years, actually, that we've had a look at this figure, but recent requests by you, the viewing audience, if I could go back and have a look at this figure again, I was more than happy to oblige. I think, really, at this point, all of us are anxiously awaiting the release of the NECA Toys New Blood Jason. I can't wait. We're going to take the tape measure nonetheless, though, to the very top of his walnut-sized head. He does kind of look like a walnut, doesn't he? The figure stands 8.1 inches in height. Switching that to centimeters quickly, the figure is a little over 20.5. He's 20.7 centimeters tall. Yes, it seems like we've looked at a lot of Jason Voorhees figures recently, with again leading up to the eventual release of that New Blood Jason. To bring in a couple of size comparisons, we just recently had a look at not too long ago the reissue Friday the 13th Part 3 3D Jason Voorhees, and we also just recently had a look at the Friday the 13th Part 4 Jason Voorhees. Even though technically these figures don't vary too much from one another, it does give you a good idea of just how much taller the Freddy vs. Jason Jason is compared to some of the regular sized Jasons from our collection. Also, I'm sure you guys would want to see a comparison with Freddy Krueger, so of course I can bring in Freddy Krueger. Not specifically from Freddy vs. Jason, because unfortunately we don't have ourselves yet an ultimate Freddy vs. Jason Freddy Krueger, but we do have several different Freddys to pull from the collection. I just happen to pull Freddy's Revenge. Probably not the best comparisons, but at least it gives you an idea of just how much taller Jason is versus some of the other figures we've looked at before. Really hard to believe, by the way, that Freddy vs. Jason came out in 2003, 18 years ago, and there's been no throwdown since between Freddy and Jason. I would love to have seen a rematch, but sadly, it never happened. For the accessories that come included with the figure, he actually gets himself a fair bit, starting first, of course, with his machete. I feel like all reviews of Jason Voorhees should start somewhere, at least with a machete. The machete is decent, though honestly speaking, as much as I'm not a big fan of Jason in the film, and it doesn't have really anything to do with the fact that Kane Hodder didn't come back, or wasn't able to come back to reprise his role, I just didn't like the design of Jason Voorhees. The stilted boots certainly wasn't a big help, but I also wasn't a big fan of these machetes either that he wields. While he has two of them with his figure, he would have had only one in the film. Now this one does have some decent detailing. It looks like what they've done here is used a dark plastic and then dry brushed a silver over top of it. The brush strokes are very visible. You can see on both sides right here. There may not have been also a Freddy vs. Jason reissue figure. If that's the case and it's still circulating store shelves, shh, that's a lot of S's. I'm going to see if maybe I can pick that one up and see if there's any differences with this figure and the ones that are hitting, like I said, the store shelves right now. Like I said, the machete is okay. You know, it is what it is. You can see the brush strokes, but for the most part, it's not a bad looking machete. It's just not one of my favorites that he's had in the films. He does actually come with a variation of that as well, which is basically the exact same thing, same handle, same blade, same brush strokes of paint added to the surface. But this one also has the additional red that's painted down at the bottom of the blade, so Jason's been busy. Like I said, though, there's nothing really different between the two machetes. They are exactly the same. Suppose you would want to jazz that up a little bit. Well, he also comes included with the flame, and I think this is a fun attachment to come included with the figure. It would have also been fun if they had gone full end spectrum of Jason Voorhees and maybe released him as a convention exclusive where he could have come engulfed in flames, similar to when we see him going through that cornfield during that party. But anyways, what you can do is you can take the flame, and there's a little groove on the inside. One of the benefits now of re-reviewing these figures is hopefully I can do it with a little bit clearer of a picture. But anyways, there's a little canal right there. And like I said, this is all done in a translucent plastic. It varies in colors, slightly lighter at the bottom, and it gets closer to being more of a warmer orange and red up at the top there. But all you do is basically just slide this down the blade. And it's entirely up to you how far down the blade you want to go. I generally like to have it a little bit higher up the blade. And you can have Jason Voorhees with that. Now, if you are having him in a walking pose, you probably, if the blade is this way and he's walking forward, you probably will want to have the flames going behind him. It's just your own personal preference more than anything else. So that's fun. That's a nice little attachment to come included with the figure. Like I said, it'd be really neat if NECA had just re-released this figure down the road with flames all over his body. Or maybe similar what they had done with the Freddy's Revenge, where there could have been magnetized pieces of plastic flames that you could have attached all over his body. I think that would have been a fun touch as well. So he comes included with the machete, comes included with the flame. We'll put those to the side. Jason comes also included with his little teddy bear. See, Jason even has a heart. He does still love his teddy. And it's a nice little teddy as well. Molded, of course, plastic like all the other accessories that we're going to be looking at here. But it has some decent detailing done to it. You can see even on the side, there's stuffing sticking out from Teddy here. That's what it looks like on the back there. Again, it's obviously plastic, but the way that they've sculpted it, it almost looks like you'd be able to squeeze it. And maybe not squeeze it too much so that the stuffing doesn't fall out of it. So like I said, he comes included with that as well. The last thing that comes included with Jason is 2 other hockey masks, not counting the ones that he comes already with his on top of his head. One is a bloodied version of that hockey mask. One is the clawed up post-Freddy battle slashed hockey mask, as you can see right there. It doesn't look like there's anything really different between the two. Even if you're looking at them from the strap end of things, they seem to be the identical hockey mask from one to the other. For comparisons, we can obviously pick up Jason Voorhees. Not much of a review it would be if I wasn't actually looking at the figure itself. This is basically the defaulted hockey mask that comes included with the figure. And don't worry, I'll pop this one off and swap it out with the other 2 hockey masks so you guys can see the difference between the two. Of course, for me to do that, it would involve me having to remove the existing hockey mask and thereby removing and revealing the mystery of what Jason's face looks like underneath. It's not very good. It's not necessarily bad for NECA's end of things, but this design of Jason is one of my least favorite unmasked Jason head sculpts we have seen. Of course, all the talk that I'm doing about it, I'm sure everybody's going to want to see it. Quickly showing you the detailing done to the back here. I do like the amount of detailing and texturing that they added to his head sculpt, even with the little tufts of hair sticking down. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Jason Voorhees ever really having hair on his head. That's just my own personal preference. But I do appreciate the fact that they have it. As a credit to the figure, because I'm trying to look at the positives. I'm not really a big fan of this particular Jason Voorhees. Ken Kersinger was a fine Jason, but he moved too much like Frankenstein's monster. And again, that was one of the main reasonings why Kane Hodder, unfortunately, wasn't in the movie, because they definitely did want to have a difference in heights and proportions. But I still think Kane Hodder could have done the role perfectly fine. Anyways, we can go ahead and remove the hockey mask, thereby revealing one of the worst, one of the worst looking head sculpts. It is terrible. He looks like a walnut. And I'm retreading an opinion I already stated before when we had a look at this Jason Voorhees the first time. It is one of my least favorite Jason Voorhees. He looks like a golem. I'm not happy with this head sculpt at all. Again, not necessarily faulting NECA Toys for the material that they had presented with, but they did the best that they could with such a poor-looking design. I mean, when you look at this, would you ever think of this being Jason Voorhees? Like his eyes. There's nothing wrong with his eyes whatsoever. Where's one missing? Where's a hole in one of the sockets? Where's there an eyeball maybe stretched down to the one side? There really isn't any abnormalities to his face necessarily. He just, like I said, looks like a big giant walnut. Let's cover up that face, shall we? We're going to go ahead and, first of all, put over the bloodied hockey mask. When you are doing this, by the way, you will want to be careful just to make sure you're not pulling it too much, because these usually are the things that will pop off the hockey mask. That's what he looks like with the bloodied hockey mask. Looks good. Looks great. The only thing, of course, missing from the rest of this is he doesn't have blood anywhere else on the rest of his body. The other hockey mask, let's go ahead and remove this carefully. is we can go ahead and take the one that's scratched up by Freddy's claws, and we'll just fit that very again carefully over top of his head sculpt. And you've got this one right here. Usually it's a toss-up for me as to which one I usually go with. I like the clean nature of the original hockey mask, but certainly if you're going to have him on display in a battle with Freddy, even though technically we don't have a Freddy versus Jason Freddy, this is usually the hockey mask that I like to display him with. Not really much that's different between the two other than these sunken-in carvings of scratches. And those actually are, they look like they've been sculpted into the mask. I mean, I could basically just do this to a smooth surface. You'd have to believe me that there are actually little contoured little canals there, little scratches on the hockey mask. So that is a nice little touch. And you know what I will do? I probably will just keep the mask on the figure for the rest of this review. I certainly don't want to subject you guys to, like I said, one of the worst looking head sculpts ever on a Jason. Let's just go ahead and bring this mask down a little bit. As for the detailing for the rest of the figure, this is the Jason, of course, that wears the jacket. He has several layers going for him, so I guess this Jason feels cold a little bit more than some of the others. He does have a blue shirt, which is a bit strange when you're seeing it, and then he's got a ripped shirt that's over top of it, with several different holes, several different rips, and even the bottom edge of it is all tattered as well. And this is just a soft, rubbery plastic that they've overlaid his torso with. Then, of course, he's got the jacket, and jacket's got some decent detailing to it as well. It looks old. It looks decayed. It looks like a jacket that Jason would be picking out from his wardrobe. I do like the fact that it's got some color changes going for it. It actually kind of looks like he's almost not stitched it together, but it actually looks like there's several different types of material that he's sewn together, which I know is not really the case. It just, on the back, it kind of looks like it. But this is just an area of his jacket that would have been ripped open, and it's probably just the padding underneath all it. But the detailing that they did put into this is really good. Again, all those little holes and rips and stuff on the side. There are areas, like, for example, you can see the under padding there of the jacket when the sleeve are ripped open like this. It's actually the case on both sides. And he's got a little bit there also on the side of his arm as well. So there's really a lot of layers going on in this Jason. Even though it's not really the Jason I prefer, I will say, though, to the credit of NECA Toys, based on what the material that they had in front of them, they did actually give us a pretty good-looking Jason. When it comes down to his pants, he's got, again, all the little rips and tears going for it. These aren't clothes he's just picked out of the Sears catalog. Is Sears even something that exists anymore? Maybe it probably isn't. I do like also... well, we won't really talk too much about these stilted shoes, but I do like the legs. I do like the jacket. I think there's a lot of really good sculpting that they put to this. But then again, all of it gets lost when we look at Jason's stilted Frankenstein shoes. Now really, seriously, Kurzinger was already a tall actor. Did we really need to give him such obvious-looking footwear like this? It is accurate to the way it looks in the film. It doesn't mean that I like it any more than I do in the film. It looks a little strange here on the figure. And again, it's not a fault necessarily to NECA Toys for working with what they had, but it does look a little silly when you see Jason with these big giant clompers, and you see him trying to walk around. I can only imagine how difficult that would be. Would Jason even really need to have stilted shoes like this, platform shoes? Apparently in the movie he does, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. Let's tackle the posability here on Jason. I'll do my best not to remove the mask here. His head does rotate back and forth. It does also have a ball joint, but it is really one of the more limited head sculpts to actually be able to rotate back and forth. The problem with it is the fact that the head isn't a separate piece. It's part of his neck. So where there is actually ball joints is really down here and not necessarily up here. I guess they could technically have made the head a separate piece, but the downside to that is, first of all, you're not going to be removing this for an alternate head sculpt like this other Jasons we've looked at before. And they also wanted to keep the sculpting the same so it looked seamless from the top of his head to the bottom of his neck. But unfortunately, it does then limit what you can do with Jason, at least when it comes to his head. As for his arms hinge out. They're larger, clunkier, almost tree trunk-sized arms, but still you can pull off a 90-degree angle bend. You can also rotate the arms all the way around. He has a bend in the elbow, which also allows that forearm to rotate back and forth. Jason's hands can also rotate somewhat all the way around, although they are going to be hitting the sculpting of the sleeve, so they're going to kind of get hung up a little bit. But yeah, you can rotate these all the way around. The upper torso does have a ball joint, and because this is made of a softer material, it doesn't limit what you can then do with the upper torso. The legs split out, although they are really tight still on this figure, which is surprising because the figure has come somewhat loose legs. Maybe I will see if I can pick up another one of these. It is tight moving the legs out because I just never really did those, but you can still move the legs back and forth this way. He has a bend at the knee. You can rotate the lower leg. And as for Jason's stilted shoes, boy, those look ridiculous. You can rotate the boots all the way around. You can hinge them up and down. And he does also have a bit of an ankle pivot as well. You know, the one thing that surprised me with this particular figure release of Jason is that he didn't come included with the head of Freddy. Technically, this isn't the first time we did get ourselves a Freddy vs. Jason. There was a deluxe set that was released that gave us a re-release Freddy and a Jason Voorhees that gave us a really nice fiery backdrop. That figure also came with a magnetized hand that could hold a Freddy head. Sadly, though, for the ultimate release of Freddy vs. Jason here, he didn't come not only with that display base, because I get it, it would be a larger piece that have to be packed inside the figure, and it would increase the cost. But I wish at the very least he could have also included the head of Freddy. So if you wanted to have him displayed in post-win, even though Freddy did technically wink, I feel Jason was still stuck in the dream realm. You could at least have displayed the figure with that. Maybe if they will consider re-releasing this guy again as a version 2, I would be open to the idea of maybe having flame attachments that you could attach to his body, so when you see him in that outdoor party, you could recreate that look. And I would most definitely include a head of Freddy that you can attach to the inside hand of Jason Voorhees here. Wouldn't it have been funny if Freddy and Jason's battle all sort of started because Freddy Krueger took Jason Voorhees' teddy? I can understand it. If Jason loses his teddy, he would flip out and start killing teenagers around him. You know, it's not that far-fetched of an idea, considering the number of scripts that circulated Hollywood before eventually they landed on the idea they did for the movie. Ideas ranging from Fred Heads, a cult of Freddy fanatics, to even Freddy Krueger working at Camp Crystal Lake. I don't feel I would have connected the two as much as in those script ideas. I'm sort of glad that they just sort of had the two run into one another. I guess Freddy was more so seeking out Jason so that people would remember Freddy Krueger again. It's a movie concept that has plot holes going for it. I mean, really, the biggest one being if you're going to be pulling Freddy from the dream world into the real world, there's no way he could go toe-to-toe with Jason. The moment Jason stuck him into those mirrors, those windows, and ran him across the side of the house, that should have been the end of Freddy Krueger right there. There's no way a human being of Fred Krueger would have survived being run through the side of a house. But I digress. Though I wasn't a big fan of Ken Kirzinger portraying Jason Voorhees in the movie, I get why Hollywood wanted to pick a bigger guy. Kane Hodder, up to this point, had done a service to the character Jason Voorhees. I personally feel he probably should have deserved to come back and sort of finish off the role that he kind of made famous. But, again, they didn't do that. They picked Ken Kirzinger, sort of just a walking, stilted Frankenstein Jason Voorhees. It's one of my least favorite Jasons in all of the franchise. Certainly when it goes for a figure, it's not a bad figure that NECA Toys have released. Basing it around a design I wasn't super crazy with anyways. At least he does have a hockey mask to hide that horrible mug of his. His head looks like a walnut. He comes with a couple of accessories, 3 swappable hockey masks, 2 swappable machetes, and even a flame attachment that you can attach to the side or to the back of the blade. And of course he also comes included with his teddy. He has all the things you would want. There probably could be opportunities that NECA Toys could have, released 2 other versions of Jason Voorhees, one in all-bloodied Jason, of course after his battle with Freddy, and maybe one engulfed in flames. Unfortunately, though, this is the only Jason that we did get from Freddy vs. Jason, and up to this point, sadly no Freddy Krueger. I don't know if they still have the licensing for it, but if they do, please NECA, give us a Freddy vs. Jason Ultimate Freddy Krueger. I would be thrilled to finally have him paired up next to Jason Voorhees. All awkward, stilted Jason Voorhees that we're having a look at in this review. He's so ridiculous. What do you guys think of Freddy versus Jason? Not only just the figure that we looked at in this review a second time around, but what do you think of the film, Freddy versus Jason? Do you think it ended the way it needed to end? And who do you think was the true victor in the movie? Love to read your comments down below. If you guys are also new to this channel and enjoying all the content you've been seeing throughout the years, we are now passing, what, are we coming up to 10 years? I'm going to have to do my math on that one. But we've been doing this for a long time. So again, I always appreciate that you guys are coming to this channel, liking the videos, and commenting on what you think of the videos down below. There's definitely going to be a lot more coming away, so make sure, yes, you hit that subscribe button down below, that yes, you hit that bell notification, and yes, you come back to this channel Monday to Friday at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, there are going to be a lot more NECA reviews lined up and coming your way, hopefully leading up to the release of New Blood Jason. I can't wait. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.